When you're watching a movie and as they're going along, you just notice things and you're thinking, that's not right. You just notice holes in the plot, or there's some serious inconsistencies and you're like, no, that wouldn't have happened. Like this, you've got a guy that just got done beating up 50 guys, with his bare hands all by himself. And then in the next scene, he's taken out just like that. Someone taps him on the shoulder. He trips and falls, and all of a sudden he's got handcuffs on him. He's just can't do anything right in the next scene. Or you've got someone who's got superpowers, and they're using them all throughout the show, except they're like, they've got this force field. They can use their force field, and they're protected during everything. And then there's another scene, and they don't use their force field, and they're captured, and you just think, no, they would have used their force field. I don't believe this. I don't buy this. And there's, of course, even more serious things than that. But just some examples of some things that are not very believable. And at some point, you just like, I don't care even what happens in this show. I don't care about any of the characters. I don't really care even what happens. You might not even finish the show because there's so many holes. And it's so pathetic. I feel that we can relate to this. Here's another example. Why is it safe to go to the grocery store and not go to the beach? I don't get it. No, I'm not buying that. If I'm watching a show and there's some danger out there to where you can't be close to each other, and but they still have people shopping at grocery stores, but you can't go out to the beach, I'm just not buying it. How is it that elective surgeries are canceled during the COVID-19 lockdown? Hip replacements, other things like that. They're canceled or postponed till who knows when. And yet, the abortion clinics are open and going strong. How is that possible? Why is it so dangerous to get your nails done at some salon, but not dangerous because you won't be spreading COVID if you're in an abortion clinic having an abortion? Holy cow. Anyway, I'm just not buying it. Like those movies with horrible holes in them and inconsistencies. I don't buy it. You're wondering what's going on when it comes to things. And actually, we do know what's going on. But you've got all these directors, not just one director like in one movie, but you've got governors who are directing the affairs in their state. And you've got governors saying, nope. No one goes to the beach in Orange County, California, because, of course, that's a really, really dangerous spot. And then you've got other directors that are trying to make rational decisions, and altogether, it's just a big mess. Anyway, and, when you're watching those movies and you just find out how much it cost for them to make the movie, you just think, holy cow, oh, my goodness. And yet, who's paying for this movie? Who's paying for this movie that we're living in? We are. We're paying for it. We're funding it. So it'd be nice if we had a little bit more say in the direction that the movie goes. Anyway, here's another important question that would be really good to have an answer on, but we're not getting this answer, which is how, in order to know the seriousness of COVID-19, to know really what the mortality rate is, we need to have accurate numbers as far as reporting on how many deaths there have been. And yet, there have been multiple reports from people who are saying that their family member or their friend who passed away and didn't even have COVID-19 is being counted in the numbers of COVID-19 deaths. And then even probably more common is what Dr. Birx actually shared with us as to how they are counting the deaths. She shared this in a White House briefing. She's, of course, part of the coronavirus task force. She shared this in a White House briefing early April. She let us know that if someone dies with COVID, and basically they definitely had pre-existing conditions in these cases. But if they die with COVID, they're counting it as a COVID death, even if there was something else that they died from. And what is basically happening is they're not doing the autopsy to really, really find out the true cause of death. And I'm not talking about people with just pre-existing conditions. I'm talking about life-threatening pre-existing conditions. They may have died because they had an aneurysm or they had kidney failure, something like that. Anyway, so all in all, how many of those are there in the list or in the numbers of deaths per day or total deaths in America? How many are true COVID deaths and how many might not be? I have no idea. No one. I don't think anyone has any idea. That's the problem, is that there's a serious plot hole there. When doctors speak out and say that they are discussing these things amongst themselves, and they are discussing, and this has been reported by some doctors, that they're feeling pressure to add COVID to their diagnostic list as part of cause of death. Whereas in the past, if someone died for some other reason, whether it be lung disease or whatever it may be, but they did contract pneumonia or contracted the flu while they were in their final days, they're not feeling pressure to put flu as cause of death because they want to put the actual cause of death. So there's a contrast there in what's happening now in this current climate. Let's go ahead and roll the video of Dr. Birx letting us know that they're counting all deaths that happen with COVID present as COVID deaths.
That if you had a pre-existing condition, and let's say the virus caused you to go to the ICU and then have a heart or kidney problem, some countries are recording that as a heart issue or a kidney issue and not a COVID-19 death. Right now, we're still recording it, and the great thing about having forms that come in and a form that has the ability to mark it as COVID-19 infection, the intent is right now that if someone dies with COVID-19, we are counting that.
This idea of inaccurate classifications is not new. I have a friend who had a miscarriage, but in her medical records she found, I believe years later, she was horrified to find in her medical records that she had had an abortion. That miscarriage was counted as an abortion. And I'm sure that she was told by many medical professionals, oh, that's just the medical term, don't worry about it. It's, the baby aborted itself. That is how we describe a baby not making it, who dies in the womb. I'm not buying that. Everyone knows that abortion is different than a miscarriage. They don't have miscarriage clinics. And anyway, so she was appalled, and I've thought about that. I thought of what could be done. Why would they, if it's not a big deal, why is it that they're classifying these miscarriages as abortions? And I thought they could definitely use those numbers in statistics in the future. Could they possibly use statistics to shape public opinion and even public opinion about abortion? What if they they use those statistics, those inaccurate statistics, and just came out with a headline one day saying abortions among married Christian women have increased by 30% over the last 10 years. And then, of course, a series of random articles would follow it over the course of the next few weeks, telling stories of women who grew up in a very religious home and had thought that they would never be faced with the decision to have an abortion, but then they came to understand and realize that there are some cases where abortions are okay. When you inaccurately report this type of information, then the results are here's what I'll say. When incorrect information is used in statistics, then the goal is to get people to believe something that is not so. And I don't want to be one of those people. So, when it comes to justifying abortions, one of the very, very common and popular justifications is to save the life of the mother. And yet, there's really, really never a need to get an abortion to save a mother's life. Here's how. But first I'll mention this. I'm not a doctor, but I also don't believe I need to be a doctor to understand this and to have this opinion. And actually, I'd call it fact. I don't know what it is about the actual killing of the baby inside the mother that somehow brings her life. what is this, dark crystal or something? You're going to have doctors that say this is medically necessary. In order for you to live, you need to have an abortion. And another doctor will say there is never a need to have an abortion to save the life of a mother. And so since doctors don't agree, we've just got to decide this for ourselves. You may or may not be familiar with the way that abortions are performed. They're definitely, they're horrible. Someone dies in the process. So certainly it has to be something rather rough, to say the least. How is it possible that killing a baby inside the mother is safer than killing the baby outside the mother? How is it possible that injecting the baby with poison, killing the baby inside the mother, is safer for the mother than injecting the baby with poison outside of the mother? Am I suggesting that we kill babies outside of the mother? Of course not. It's wrong to do either. Kill the baby inside or outside of the mother. But the baby has to come out. It's not like an abortion is performed and the baby disappears. The baby comes out and comes out through the birth canal the same way they would have come out if they were alive. And killing the baby beforehand doesn't actually save the mother's life. Now, if there were complications and there were some health issues for a mother who is pregnant and that baby is either coming prematurely or there's just some health complications, then doing everything medically possible to bring that baby out alive, even if the baby died, would not be an abortion. That is the point, which is that the actual killing of the baby inside the mother does not bring the mother life. It's actually quite dangerous. They have ambulances outside of abortion clinics. And I remember reading an article last year that reporting about an abortion clinic who sent a mother who was having an abortion in the ambulance to the hospital and requested that ambulance not turn on their lights. It's kind of embarrassing, save face. It's kind of embarrassing to be an abortion clinic and actually have to send someone to go get medical help. Abortions are not the safest of things, even for the mother. As I mentioned, abortions are never to save the life of the mother. There are many women who have had abortions with that understanding that it was to save their life. And many have very strong feelings that was the case, and it would be very, very difficult to come to a realization that you did not need to kill your baby or allow someone to kill the baby. But for those women, I feel that they are, those who are being lied to, I feel that they are victims as well. And it's not too late to change your mind about things like that. History is full of people. Some of the greatest people, I'd say all of them, but some of the greatest people in history are people who were at one point believing in one direction, perhaps even believing lies and living a life that was not ideal or not bringing joy and happiness. But then they turned around, left the lies behind, and moved forward, fighting for truth for the rest of their lives. The truth is about abortion. It's legal to kill a baby inside of the womb. It's not legal outside of the womb. But if you are Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia, well, you would have it another way. Many of you may remember the 2019 radio interview where he very, very plainly communicated that he believes it should be legal to decide after the baby is born whether or not to keep the baby alive. He is unfortunately not alone. This is something that is a common enough in abortion clinics in America and certainly all over the world. Failed abortions, which means the baby survives the abortion, do eventually result in the baby dying for lack of care. So whether it's an abortion or COVID-19, accuracy in the cause of death is important. So when we see holes in the plot and when we see inconsistencies in our real life situation, let's not bring that movie to the theater. Let's fix it. Let's fix it. Let's get a movie going like It's a Wonderful Life. All in favor? Yeah. Let's do it.